Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be a casual discussion about the XP meta and also the 4-person group meta for like pushing for rank 1. I'm going to be joined by UNTAMEDGIRTH, who is a very experienced hardcore player who finishes very high on Leaderboard and has played a lot this season. So I'm going to be picking his brain, kind of getting his opinion, what he thinks about the meta, you know, for both XP and for pushing Leaderboard. So let's just get right into it. Alrighty, and now I am joined by UNTAMEDGIRTH. How's your season going so far, man?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Pretty good so far, man. It's been crazy, a lot of stuff happening, but it's been Grand and Paragon and everything, and it's been pretty fun, you know, and a lot more people have been playing at the start just because of changes and everything, so it's been pretty cool. It's been a lot of fun. I like the changes right.
Nice, okay. And have you pushed yet or anything? Or are you just kind of grinding XP right now, or?
I haven't really pushed a lot myself. I've been keeping track of like everyone that has, you know, watching around the different servers, checking the forums, watching YouTube and stuff and everything, and keeping my, you know, finger on the pulse for that kind of stuff for when we're ready. But yeah, planning on it soon. But no, we've mostly done like the highest we've done is like I think 118 or 119 just for some gem ups. So a little bit, but not much, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I hear you. Well, for this video, I wanted to kind of go over your thoughts on like the XP meta and then like the pushing meta and kind of focus on group type stuff. And so I guess first off, you know, what are you kind of thinking right now? What are you trying to get your group to be when you're trying to get XP?
So for right now, we're 2 weeks in, obviously a little bit over 2 weeks, and people are currently doing for the general experience meta is like Charge Barb, Z Barb, Z Monk, and Demon Hunter. There is going to be a shift that we can talk about a little bit later with possible lawn rats that we're thinking and have seen around. I know it's been softcore and also like some EU and a little bit on NA, and people have been gearing towards that. But the general one right now is the Charge, Z Barb, Z Monk, and DH, whatever, for XP meta.
And if you can't get that perfect group, is it okay to kind of mix and match, like have 2 DHs and a Z Barb and a Z Monk, or like
Yeah,
like how much ahead is the perfect composition then, like mixing and matching?
I mean, the perfect comp, it is a decent gap. Like we're talking, you know, if you're gonna run off meta stuff, some of it can come close, but maybe like an extra level every like 2 or 3 hours kind of thing. Like if you're running perfect comp, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it does add up like over time, you know.
And how does it compare to like rat runs of previous seasons?
Rat runs are pretty good. I think I can't really remember honestly off the top of my head what we were getting for rat runs in the previous seasons, but I'm pretty sure we're ahead of it. Like I'm 99% sure we're ahead of it right now with the comp that we're using. Like when you're in good groups, when you're in not as solid groups where maybe people don't know their roles yet, or they're not doing the proper stuff, or they're not speccing properly, or maybe their gems are a little bit off, like all those things really add up. Like, so it's really important, just like in any group play, to get your team in sync and on the same page and have proper skills, proper gems. It just makes everything easier and safer, especially on hardcore too.
And then, so do you want to go into like any specifics that you know about for those 4 roles in the meta? Like Barb is, you know, focusing on like picking up globes and stuff like that, and just kind of go over that. Sure.
So we can start off with like the Z Barb. The Z Barb, there is a couple options, but I mean the best option is right now like the Razer Charge that people have been running, and it's basically just the exact same as like the Push Barb. You're running like Veterans Warning, you know, for the dodge. You're running Rage Flip for a pull, Mob Rule, like the Ignore Pain, and then like you're running Sprint, the group Sprint for the Barb, and then like Falter for damage reduction and stuff. And yeah, you're basically just trying to give your Charge Barb extra move speed, so you're constantly using your War Cry. You're constantly giving him Sprint because you want him to get the Chilanix buff and the Sprint buff, because it actually directly affects his damage and stuff like that. And just keeping your team safe, and like more than anything, like being active and trying to like pull extra mobs in. Like a lot of Barbs sit and sink, and they shouldn't. You know, they should try and pull more stuff in. But people, yeah, I don't know. They get kind of, you know, pigeonholed, and they focus too much on like just where the group is. But yeah, it's good when they wander off and pull more stuff. It goes faster.
Cool. And what about Z-Monk then?
Z-Monk, same thing. I've ran with a couple different ones, and you run into some problems when people are doing some weird stuff. The proper setup, as far as I know, should really be like you run Annihilation for your mantra. Some people have been playing with different ones like agility and everything, and like they think it's toughness, and it is. Like, they're technically right, but Annihilation, like, you got to think damage is survivability. So it's like Annihilation gives you move speed, and it actually gives you damage. And then there's an activation buff where you get an extra added damage that a lot of people don't do. So the monks aren't activating it all the time. So make sure you're activating it if you're playing Z-Monk. They run Breath of Heaven Zephyr because I believe it gives the Barb move speed, which again directly affects his damage and gives you Spirit back, I think. They run Implosion just to pull more mobs in fast when you're moving. Usually a dash, like with the blinding speed for dodge. Maybe when you're higher Paragon, you could probably switch it to like the move speed one, but I think the dodge is just safe. And then other than that, inner Sank. I had this discussion with a few monks, and some of them don't run Sank, but it's just silly. It allows your Demon Hunter to run Focus Restraint a lot easier and safer, and they can stand next to elites and kill them quicker. And it also like kind of keeps the Barb safer, especially when the Barb's running COE and stuff like that, so you can get more XP.
Okay, and then for the DPS, I guess we'll just start with Charge Barb.
Yeah, I should mention too for the Z's, like it should go without saying, but you want to run Toxin. Toxin's your most important. I did have a couple groups where both Z's weren't wearing Toxin, and they do stack. Okay,
yeah, for sure.
And then Charge Barb, yeah, it's the same. It's kind of the same thing like standard IK Razer Charge Barb. Basically, you put your Ancients up as soon as you get in the Rift. They're using together as one. This splits the damage so that you don't take as much, so you got to make sure you have them up. They run Charge. You can run any element on it, and it's pretty good, really strong. Farming a good Hellfire is usually, I wouldn't say a must, but it is really good. You can run with an Etlich or something else, or any Trifecta, but the Barb especially, if you get a good Hellfire, you get an extra damage passive, so I mean, that one's pretty good. So farming a good one, you know, if you really want to, you know, go next level is really good. You can use any elements. Make sure you got like a good AP set of APDs and stuff. And
is there an element that's best though?
I don't think so, actually. Not for Barb. Like DH is a little bit different as far as I know, but I don't think Barb actually has a best element. I could be wrong. I'm not as in tune with the Barb, but from what I've heard from people, I don't think there is. I don't know. Maybe you know different. I'm not sure.
No, I haven't gotten to play a Charge Barb yet this season. I've mainly been playing DH.
Yeah, I've played both. I do have one stacked up, and I do have a Hellfire. I think I'm running an Etlich on it right now just because I haven't gotten a Trifecta Hellfire, but eventually I'll probably switch to that too. I do have a couple of usable ones that I thought of. Another note is if you do farm a Hellfire, because things like the Monk and Barb, like they'll wear Ice Blink and everything, they give you a little bit more crit chance. You can end up dropping crit chance on your amulet. So if you get one that's elemental or like crit hit damage, high crit hit damage, you can kind of miss out on the crit hit chance, you know what I mean? And then it'll still be really good and high damage. So don't feel too bad if you only get one that's like, you know, 20 fire and like 90 crit hit damage or something like that, and like that's how you rolled it, and you're like, oh, if only I had the crit hit chance. Nah, it's still okay, it's still usable, I'd still use it, you know, especially if it's ancient.
Yeah, for sure.
But basically you just charge around. That's it. You just charge around, activate your Wrath of the Berserker, and you're keeping Focus Restraint up, and dumping your Fury and stuff helps cooldown for Wrath of the Berserker, so you don't really need a lot of cooldown. Pretty much just the gem and the helm, and that's about it. And then you stack area damage, and Barb just blows everything up.
Okay, and if that's all for Barb, then I guess we'll get into what you play mostly, which is DH.
Yeah, DH has been really fun. I don't know about you, but I wasn't a huge fan of the Shadow set before. And with this buff and everything, this patch has been pretty cool, pretty fun. It's been fun to run in group. So there's a couple takes on it. So there's the one set up with Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose, and then they're using Elusive Ring and everything for a little bit more toughness and all this. And there was one setup I talked about where like they're running, they'd be running COE as their other one. You could actually technically drop COE, or you could drop Elusive, sorry, wear Wraps of Clarity with that, put on a Stone of Jordan for your other ring, and then just put a generator on your bar, and then you gain extra elite and elemental. So like that's kind of something I wouldn't mind trying out a little bit too. It's a little bit harder to run, and it's more like the focus restraint setup, which is seeming to be the more popular one right now for XP. So basically people are running focus restraint on their Demon Hunter, and then they're farming a good Hellfire, same thing, trifecta. And the idea behind getting this Hellfire is so that you can pick up numbing traps. A lot of people are dropping numbing traps if they don't have a Hellfire for more damage. But when we're doing like the higher group stuff, like we're usually expecting our Barbarians, our charged ones, to run COE. And when they're running COE, it makes them a lot less tanky because they drop Bandamite in the cube for this convention, you know?
Yeah, that's a huge toughness now.
Yeah, so you take a lot of damages, so you're losing 60% DR. So, like, these DHs, they're grabbing an extra Hellfire because then it gives them this extra passive, and then that's when they take numbing traps, and it helps the Barb out a little bit. But yeah, if you're running FNR, you have to run Wraps of Clarity, and you have to run a generator. You can pretty much pick any generator. I'd suggest something that maybe doesn't DR mobs, so that the Barb and Monk can group stuff a little bit easier. So I'm running, like, I think it's Bitter Pill Bolas, and yeah, that one is just fine just because it doesn't really interfere with anything. But it's standard setup. You have your Shadow Power, your Knife, Lightning and Cold are the most popular just because they do a little bit more damage, but the other ones should be fine. The only one I would say to be wary of is Fire that I know of right now. We were testing a little bit of it, Dis and I, the other night in Brawler, and we're not sure if the Fire one could end up killing yourself and the group because it does put a dot on them. On reflect mobs, like the spinners, spinners and stuff, and I'm not sure if it'll kill people, so it could kill you in the group. So you might want to stay away from Fire if you're on hardcore a little bit. You can try it out, but you know, do it at your own risk, kind of thing. Do you think there's a best element for DH? Like if you could choose between Cold and Lightning? If I could choose, I think Cold's probably the best. I think it's just because it penetrates, you know, and it hits everything versus like the Lightning bouncing just between the mobs and everything. But I'd have to say Cold just because you probably get a little bit more damage out of it. But Lightning and Cold are pretty close, and then the other elements are pretty close after that. So it's basically just use whatever you get. That's the best, you know. But be wary of Fire.
If you're on hardcore, for sure. And between the Barb and the DH, which one does more damage?
It's really situational, I would say. Like the Barb does a lot of damage in high density, like a ton of damage. And so when you're getting these like large maps, say Festering Woods or Battlefields, you're getting all this trash build up, and especially when the Barb's pulling really well. And you get these massive pulls, and the Barb will just level it on COE, and they can blow up like a whole pack and plus an elite, like in maybe 1 or 2, 3 charges max. So the Barb really packs a large punch, but I mean, it's the same thing. Like when you have Demon Hunter and you've got single target stuff, like these elites need to die, and I mean, the Barb can't do it. Like if there's no trash, the Barb does nothing. So it's really a little bit of both, you know. It's hard to say which one does more. I'd say you need both around the same. So like you can't just go with like a low Demon Hunter and then a high Barb and expect the Barb to carry, because you'll take way too long on elites and the RG finishing them off. But I mean, you could probably go with a little bit lower Demon Hunter if you're just fighting like massive packs and then rely on the Barb's damage. So I suppose if I had to pick, maybe Barb, I'd say.
Okay, as far as, yeah, like the carry potential.
Yeah, potential,
Okay.
just because you could maybe fight higher density only and go a little bit quicker, and then yeah, the Demon Hunter would slow you down a bit on the RG, but it'd still be fine probably. So I would say having a really geared good Barb would be good, but the biggest thing is just getting the right pieces and area damage.
Okay, so as of right now, it seems like you're thinking the Z Barb, the Z Monk, Impale DH Charge Barb is kind of the XP meta, but I know you had mentioned something about the Lawn Rats, which is Legacy of Nightmares, like the full Ancient Necro set, or not Necro set, but the full Ancient set, and then using that on Necro.
Yeah, they're thinking. There's some groups and some people at the higher levels and non-season a little bit that have been thinking that Lawn Rats are better, and there's been some testing, and I think they are possibly confirmed to be better. So I know a lot of people are gearing up Lawn Rats. I myself have been piecing one together too. Basically, it's just a couple pieces to keep your eyes out for, like Swampland Waders. You want each with physical for tougher mages, and a Requiem Sorella plate because it gives you, I think it's more essence on the Devours and stuff.
Yep.
A good Leoric's Crown. I think shoulders are kind of whatever. You can have anything. Gloves maybe around the same thing. I think offhand you just need, like, the mage's skeletons, same thing as the regular rats before, and then just so some things to keep your eyes open for, like good lawn rings and everything, and maybe do keys on a necro or something if you really want to get that high XP potential. But it is going to be very niche, and there's not going to be a ton of groups are running it, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's only going to be like the highest end players, that are trying to get the most XP. So I wouldn't feel too bad. Like, you're not going to be missing out. Everyone's going to be still doing Barb and DH,
And how much better is the Lawn Rats than the Charge Barb DH? Is it, are we talking like 10%, 20%?
Sure. I think off the top of my head, I want to say if I had to guess, maybe 10 to 15% more XP, maybe, but it's not going to be like astronomical, I don't think.
And does that use Z Barb, Z Neck?
It should be the same almost in every way, except for the whole not using Rathma set and a couple tweaks, to some skills and stuff, and pieces for gearing, obviously, just because it's Lawn Rats. But yeah, Z Barb should be the same, and Z Necro, as far as I know, should be the same. So if you're not building a Lawn Rat, but you maybe know some higher players that do have some Lawn Rats, you could still probably get away with running the Charge Barb in it. It'd be the same, so you wouldn't have to build a new one. And then the only other one you need is like the Z Necro, which is pretty easy. You can snag some pieces off a Necro, I'm sure, if you got a buddy, or craft it up. It doesn't take a lot.
Cool. Okay, so that kind of covers like XP this season. What about like pushing for rank 1 as a 4-person group? Or
yeah, so for the high 4 stuff, there's been a couple things that have been going around, a couple things talked. I know there's a Lawn Star Pact wizard that's going around that apparently is supposed to be touted to be extremely good. I haven't run with it myself yet, or maybe I did with Eggman a little bit earlier. I can't remember if I was in that group, but it's a little bit squishy, so they're kind of leaning away from it right now. In hardcore, they're waiting until Higher Paragon to test again, I think. It's basically a survivability problem, so like it does a lot of damage, but they're kind of waiting to see how it is at Higher Paragon, more toughness. There's also the Tal Rosh's setup for Wizard, again Star Pack. Like everything like at the highest end right now is still Star Pack stuff, so it's a lot the same. You could still use Firebirds like they did last season. There's a Tal Rasha setup that's Star Packed as well. And then other than that, it's the standard Z-Monk, standard Pole Barb, and then insert RGK, there's Demon Hunters viable right now. I think there's a couple of the Necro ones that are a little bit viable. There's supposed to be this Lawn Lancer one that I've heard of going around that is something you could scour the leaderboards for. I can't remember where people saw it, but I heard people talking about it. What else? And there's an Invoker Satyr setup, I think, that can RGK fairly well that Leonidas Max was talking about, and a couple other people I think have been testing. Right now, most people are using DH for RGK, just the Impale setup. But yeah, there's a couple ones going around. But for the highest stuff, it's mostly Wizard. There is Charge Barb, though. You could use Charge Barb for high gem ups for decently high, like for softcore. On EU, I know they did a 138 or 139 with just Charge Barb. It was COE and stuff, so for hardcore, it's maybe not quite as viable, but I mean, you could still do a pretty tanky setup, given you had a decent amount of area damage and stuff for Charge Barb to go pretty high still.
Yeah, so you could
standard XP stuff.
You could still push it, just go a little bit slower. That way you can get your gems up.
Yeah, basically, it'd be the same thing. I know you could probably gear a Lawn Witch Doctor. I think they're still pretty viable. I'm not sure about Jade. I haven't seen it. Firebirds Firebats Witch Doctor can probably go decently high, but I would be careful with that one because I know previously it did lag the game out a lot because of the area damage. I think it still does, so I'd be wary of it. But yeah, those are your standards. The best ones are usually with Wizard or the Charge Barb right now for the trash clear, and then your standard Z Monk, Z Barb, and then RGK right now usually is DH, but there is some Necro variants and stuff coming around, and Invoker is supposed to be pretty good. So
yeah, that's kind of a random tip that a lot of like inexperienced players don't know is when you're on like a Z Barb or a Z Monk, a lot of people just go through their Paragon and distribute their points, but you actually want to leave area damage blank.
Yeah, just because it's
just more calculations.
It could lag the game out, and you just want the least amount of lag possible to prevent, especially in hardcore. You don't want to lag, and then all of a sudden the Z Monk drops tank for a second, and someone dies like on their DPS. It's not fun,
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool. Thanks for. I know it's probably been about 20 minutes or so. I didn't want to take too much of your time, but
yeah.
Any like closing thoughts or anything you wanted to say before we head out here?
No, just that I think they did confirm, well, not confirm, but they did announce the season end date. They had posted it before the season started. It's supposed to be March 17th, so if you're wanting to get those Paragons in and pushes and everything, just have that in mind. That should be around with a tentative end March 17th, so you've still got about a month and a few weeks left in the season. It is going to be a shorter one, they say, but you never know. So get those Paragons in, get those pushes in, and have fun, because the Ring Royal Grandeur buff is supposed to be going away. So, a lot of this stuff isn't going to be around or whatever. Some of it's not going to be viable. So, have fun with this while you can. I'm definitely having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what they're going to do to match this season's seasonal theme.
Yeah. Like, that's why I was kind of like, when people were talking about lawn rats being a thing, I'm kind of, really rat runs, I guess, but I guess they're different. So whatever, if that's the best XP, for some of us, you got to do it, but definitely enjoy the Charge Barb stuff and everything while it's around,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then as far as you, are you going to be uploading videos on your channel or anything, or?
Yeah, I've been trying to get to like doing one of these myself on the XP meta and going into a little bit of depth about it and maybe posting some of the higher stuff or whatever. So I'm probably going to start streaming up again soon. I haven't been the last week or so. I had some computer problems, unfortunately, so I replaced the power supply, had some family stuff going on and everything, but should be back at it. I'm 2100 Paragon right now, and I'm going for over 3K for sure this season. Hopefully in the next few weeks, and then get some high level pushes and 4-man and everything going on. Should be a lot of fun. So yeah, if you want, you can always find me over at twitch.tv/UNTAMEDGIRTH, and my YouTube should just be the same, UNTAMEDGIRTH or whatever, if you want. I've got some videos up on there right now, but should be uploading more, given the time.
For sure, and I'll put those links down in the video description if anybody's curious.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
You bet. Well, thanks for your time, man. Good luck with the grind.
All right. Well, you take it easy, and like I said, enjoy the buff yourself too, man. It's going away.
All righty. Thanks. We'll see you, man.
All right. Later, man.